In this episode, Rob and I talk about something unusual. These are handmade businesses and restaurants and how they can best use AI to grow them to magnificent heights. Now, this is not normally used in these particular industries. So when we do this deep dive, we're going to be talking about tools to use to get these kind of businesses, these handmade businesses, to grow like crazy. We also touch upon some of the very specific tools to use. We also dive into all these kinds of tricky ways to consider as you grow your business, your handmade business, even your restaurant business. If you're already a part of what we're doing over here, be on the lookout for something special. We are literally going to be dropping pieces of information and links where you can go to get into some of the stuff that we got coming up. Be on the lookout for that. If you're not a subscriber to our channel, and I think right now about 73% of the people that watch our channel are not subscribers, we want you to be a part of this because we are dropping gold like crazy. So be on the lookout for that. We will jump inside of this episode. So enjoy. So Rob, I have been absolutely fascinated with how, these homemade businesses, these restaurant businesses, these businesses that typically don't use AI, how we can look at these businesses in a way and then suggest AI tools that'll help them get to better profit centers. Now, Rob's got a couple things that he wants to go through, and he was in the middle of talking about one. So, Rob, go ahead and talk how you use a couple of AI tools to think about a business that typically isn't AI-ish.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of it for me, when we were talking about off camera. So I do some consulting and I've got an ownership stake in a restaurant business. And one of the things I wanted to look at was, right, we know all the stuff that we're trying to do in business, but I want to make sure it actually made sense and that it was actually, you know, working for where my business is because it's in Tennessee where, we're in Michigan. And so I'm trying to make sure that everything is working the way that it needs to work. So there's a couple of tools that I use. Number one, there's a tool called Perplexity. For those of you all that
Yep, I use
haven't
it
used
every day.
Perplexity, exactly. Randy actually hit me to Perplexity. And I was like, this is interesting. And it took me a while before I really understood the power of it.
Mhm.
But now that I got it, it's awesome. And it's a tool that, like a lot of people say that like Perplexity will replace Google for them because what Perplexity does
It
is it
has for
does
me.
your web searching, but it does your web searching in support of answering questions
Yep.
instead of so like a lot of times people will type stuff into Google like how do I lose weight or how do I find a doctor or all the rest of that type of stuff. And what Google will do is it'll just give you all of the websites that can answer that question for you. What Perplexity will do is it will go grab all those websites like Google does, and then it'll go and scan the information there and then give you an answer,
Yeah.
right? Based on what it's seen, and it'll show you, right? It shows its work. It'll show you the websites it went to. So if you want to go do your own deep dive into it, you can do that also. So one of the things that when you're looking at business in general, specifically when you're trying to do business strategy, one of the rules that you want to look at is a rule called the 30-20-10 rule. And that rule basically means in any business that you have, if you want to see whether this is a scalable business, whether it's a business that you should actually run, you want to make sure that it's following the 30-20-10 rule. 30-20-10 rule basically means 30% or more gross profit, right? So you don't want to have anything less than 30% in gross profit. Otherwise, your business is going to be very difficult to make a business,
Mhm.
right? It's just a really expensive hobby. um, Similarly, you want to have SG&A. SG&A stands for sales and general administrative
Administrative.
costs,
Yep.
right? That's basically how much it costs you to run the business, how much it costs you to pay yourself, your assistants, your to keep the lights on, rent, whatever it is that you have to do for the business that's not directly related to the product that you sell.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so you don't want that to go any higher than 20%. So again, no lower than 30% gross margin, no higher than 20% SG&A will make sure that you have a business that has no less than 10%. Um, and depending on which school you're looking at, EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, or 10% operating profit, basically. Um, so the cool part is with Perplexity, I went in and I wanted to look at our restaurant business, and so I looked at first of all, what's the potential for this business? I know where we are right now, but what's the potential and what's the industry standard? What's the norm? So I had Perplexity go look at how many people can a 4 or 5 person crew serve, consistently, and what are the averages, what are the norms, and so it broke it down. So it told me, when you're looking at chain restaurants and stuff like that, they normally have teams that are the size, 15 to 20 people a shift type teams because they're used to servicing, couple hundred people an hour, right? And it's like that's a whole different ball game. But if you're looking at smaller stores like the stores that we have, they're looking at anywhere from two on the low end to 10 on the top end, but 4 to 5 is kind of like a sweet spot. So then I was able to say, okay, well, 4 to 5 being a sweet spot with these numbers, based on that, I'm able to take that information over to ChatGPT and to say, okay, ChatGPT, if I'm paying these people this much and I'm doing right, we've got our food costs at this percentage and we got this. Can you build out a plan for me that tells me what my annual revenues, my annual gross profit, my annual SG&A costs, and my annual net profit looks like. So then it's able to build out that whole thing and plan it out for me. Then I'm able to tweak it and make different tweaks with it and saying, okay, if I decide to pay it, if we bring in a manager that we're paying and 50% of their pay is
Oh, I
coming
love
out of
that.
their wage and 50% of their pay is coming out of SG&A, does it still fit within these boundaries? And show the calculations, right? Because one of the things you want to always pay attention to with AI, you want to see its work. You want to see how it's making its calculations. Sometimes it gets the math wrong, and it gets the math wrong not because it's bad at calculations, but it sets the calculation up the wrong way. So it's looking at the wrong things. So anyway, go through all of that. I'm able to build not only a strategic plan of these are the numbers that we need to hit, and if we hit these numbers, this is what good looks like. I'm also able to then say, okay, here's where we are. This is where we want to go. Give me a 90-day plan to go from A to B.
Yeah.
And it's able to build out a plan and say, okay, here's what I would probably focus on. Here are the things that you want to do, et cetera, yada, yada, yada. And then it's like, okay, well, how much would that cost if I was going to implement that plan? If I'm hiring this person, if I'm doing this thing. And again, whenever you feel like the answers, it might not know, or it might just be off a little bit, I go back over to Perplexity and I'm like, okay, for this position, for this type of person in this area, in this region, what's the standard going rate to get this type of work? And then it goes and it looks at it and does basically a job market survey for you, right? It's going to look at Glassdoor and all the rest type of stuff and see how much those people cost. So then you can bring that in and you can tweak your model with better information. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I think for me, using AI to really augment your business strategy conversation is really important, because a lot of things people make up and people do with lack of knowledge. And now we have great search engines and great search tools. And then you've got a thinking partner with the Chat GPT as well. That's something that I think that businesses can
I
dramatically
start
improve their
everything with
output.
AI now. I start thinking with AI. Now, that's not to suggest everybody over here, it's not to suggest that we do everything it says, because this is where what Rob and I do is that we're able to kind of go, well, here's some insights that it has just given me. And then we know from an operational standpoint, the likelihood, of getting this stuff done. We've been able to deduce from all our years of teaching people and coaching people and school and all that stuff. Now to be able to look at that idea that AI that gave us, and it becomes, we're the gas to the kindling, right? And then
Mhm,
that's something that
mhm.
we have happen to possess. We don't necessarily recommend it for, brand new people, because you
Definitely not.
cannot know some of these little things. It's like, I don't think that's right. I
Yeah.
literally had to ask one thing the other. It was so outrageous. I was talking about email marketing for my email marketing course, and it had a 4,200, 4,200% something, blah blah blah. I had to take that and says, is this right? That's when I would go to Google and says, hey, is this right? This can't. And it
Exactly.
says, yep, this is right based on blah blah. So now here's the one that I had, everybody, and I just want to make it really, really quick, because what we have done is we have put together a kind of a checklist for you on some of how you do this stuff. If it were like 5 simple ways, this is literally 5 simple ways that we can
Hmm.
use AI in like a homemade business, in a restaurant business, something like that, that typically you would think would be like, well, you got to cut up the chicken. you got to do this. Now, here's the one that I
Mm-hmm.
had. I'm gonna show y'all on screen. This one's it's called Bailey's Farm. Here's something that they do. Rob, they do this and it's amazing, man. When I looked at it, I was like, wait a minute, this could be a good candidate. This literally could be a good candidate for, utilizing AI in the business itself when they may or may not be using it. I'm not sure. Can you see it all right, Rob?
It's not. It's not. It's
And it's
there. We go. It's up now.
because we like to give y'all this stuff live just as y'all seeing it. So look at this. It says up north kombucha maker triples production with new bottling line. All right. So they got a new bottling line. And I just started thinking about this company and asking questions. Now, again, they may or may not be already using some form of AI, but the way Rob and I think about AI, and we think about all the businesses that we have seen that probably could use it, these boring businesses, these handmade, you do it by hand and all that kind of stuff businesses. And
Mhm.
there are a lot of them. And if we can go and say, hey, listen, here's what we found that it does, but we believe there's some other opportunities within the AI space that could explode your whatever it is. And then it ended up going over to AI. I think I want to say I was using ChatGPT, and it came up with some interesting pieces of material. We'll package it all together and show you. But it was
Mhm.
fascinating the things that we were able to tease out. Now, if you're already out there doing this kind of stuff, awesome. But if you're not, then you should be. I'm just saying. Right. So now I went through all of this. It talks about the money that they're making, and I started thinking, what else could I come up with? What else could I come up with
Mhm.
within these kinds of spaces that would allow us
Yeah.
to maybe go out there and say, hey, business, we'll help you with this because you wouldn't normally be doing it. You want that
Mhm.
help? And we might spin up something, throw a couple of landing pages out there. So y'all be on the lookout for that. But we just really want to tell you that this is where the new frontier is. The days of the straight up consultant and the McKinsey types or whatever. Come on, man. You don't have to do that now. You can hire me and Rob, and we'll come in and rock that whole thing. Show you how, because we got an operational experience too. Having worked
Mhm.
in things and having did some turnarounds and doing these kind of things, then we see it from a whole different level. So McKinsey ain't gonna take a little hot dog stand. I'm just, or you over at the farmers market there. But if we
It
can come
will.
in
They
and
just
say,
be
hey,
way out of
listen,
your price range.
yeah, pay us on the up, right? What the irresistible offer is like, look, if we make more money for you, pay us.
Hmm.
Now pay us a little setup fee so that we can get things set up, but that could be an opportunity. So if you're looking
Yeah.
at this and you want to reverse engineer what we talked just said, oh, okay, go out there and make money. We'll help you with that too. Anyway, so
Yeah.
Rob, I just
Yeah.
wanted to share a couple of things. I've got more that we're going to put in the checklist, everybody. So just, look in the comment section or in the description field, and we'll leave a link for you. It'll take you over to the page where you can actually, download it and all that kind of stuff. And then get out there and maybe start, beating us to some of these companies.
Hmm.
No harm, no foul. There's enough for all of us. So that's it, everybody. That's all I have for you. Rob, you got anything else you want to leave people with?
I just for everybody that's watching and listening, just remember there's so much more that you can accomplish because the goal is to work smarter, not harder.
That part. All right, y'all. We'll see you next week.